She came with a smile, promising aid, progress, and peace for Africa. But Captain Ibrahim Traoré wasn't convinced. Behind the polished speeches and generous offers, something didn't feel right. And then, it happened. In a live broadcast that stunned the world, he exposed her as a foreign spy. This isn't just a scandal, it's a wake-up call. Watch till the end, because truth just defeated deception in the boldest way possible. The sun burned bright over Ouagadougou, the capital of Burkina Faso, as Ibrahim Traoré stepped through the crowd that had gathered near the city's old railway station. He wore a simple white shirt and khaki pants, a deliberate choice to blend in, to be seen as a man among his people, not just the president. But today, even his calm presence couldn't outshine the buzz surrounding a new visitor, Marie. Marie's arrival swept through the city like a summer storm. She emerged from a silver SUV, arms full of wild flowers, her blue scarf fluttering in the dry morning breeze. Cameras clicked, children waved, and women in colorful dresses pushed forward for a closer look. Marie smiled, her French accent dancing as she greeted everyone she met. She spoke of hope, of bringing better education and health to the villages, and of a new era of partnership. The local news teams captured every handshake, every bouquet, every smile. Ibrahim Traoré watched from a short distance, his dark eyes focused. He'd seen this before. Foreigners with good intentions and generous gifts. But there was something about Marie that made him pause. Her gestures were flawless, her words carefully chosen. She seemed to know exactly what to say and when to say it. Yet behind the applause and the flowers, Ibrahim sensed a question. Was this kindness, or was there something more? Marie introduced herself as the director of Green Future, a Western charity dedicated to helping young girls and women in rural Burkina Faso. She spoke passionately on television, praising President Traoré for his leadership and for giving young Africans the courage to dream. She visited schools, donated boxes of solar lamps and books, and made sure to take photos with local mothers and their babies. Her organization's logo, two open hands cradling a leaf, was on every gift. But as days passed, Ibrahim's advisors began noticing odd patterns. Marie's visits often took her to villages near military outposts or close to the new oil depots. She asked plenty of questions about the roads, the number of soldiers in the area, the shifts at local checkpoints. She always had a reason, always explained it as concern for safety or logistics. Still, Ibrahim's security chief, a graying man named Diarra, grew uneasy. "She's polite, yes," he whispered one night, "but she's always looking for something." One afternoon, as Marie stood in the shade of a mango tree distributing notebooks to a line of shy schoolgirls, a mother named Awa leaned in close to the village elder. "She asks so much about the army," Awa whispered, "but never about our crops or the price of water. I don't think she's here just to help." The elder nodded, his eyes narrowing as he watched Marie laugh and pose for another photograph. Meanwhile, Ibrahim Traoré kept silent, letting the days unfold. His years as an officer before becoming president had taught him patience. "Let her work," he told Diarra. "The more confident she becomes, the more we'll see her true purpose." Ibrahim believed in the strength of his people, but he also knew the world could be a complicated place, and not everyone who smiled was a friend. Marie's schedule was packed. In less than 2 weeks, she'd visited 9 villages and met with local leaders, school teachers, and women's groups. She asked about everything: how far it was to the nearest town, how the soldiers rotated shifts, which roads were safest, if any new equipment had arrived. She always gave gifts and always left behind a trail of thank you notes and beaming faces. But at night, Marie was different. In her hotel room, she made long phone calls that she took outside away from her driver and her assistant. She traveled, with 2 cell phones, one for public use, one always locked and rarely seen. Her companion, a tall, silent man with a camera, never gave his name and rarely spoke to anyone. Sometimes Marie typed late into the night on her laptop, the glow from her window visible from the street below. Unknown to her, the national security team had already begun monitoring her communications. An analyst noticed that emails from Green Future were routed through servers in Paris coded with odd names like Blue Window and Nightbird, Cross-checking with international records, they discovered that Marie's organization was funded in part by a powerful American foundation known for supporting strategic research in West Africa. The pieces were slowly coming together, but now Marie's public image remained untarnished. She was a celebrity in the capital, invited to radio interviews featured in the country's main newspaper, and welcomed at the university. Women's groups praised her generosity. The city's mayor awarded her a ceremonial scarf for her tireless spirit. Photos of Marie hugging local children appeared on posters at bus stops, and her hashtag trended on social media. Yet deep down, a quiet unease spread. A few villagers started to avoid Marie's questions, answering only what they had to. Some children, once eager for gifts, now hesitated when her SUV rolled into town. One afternoon, as Marie stood on the stage of a small school, a plainclothes security officer snapped a photo, not of Marie, but of her companion's camera equipment. That evening, as the sun set over Ouagadougou and the temperature dropped from 95 to 70 degrees Fahrenheit, Ibrahim Traoré stood on his balcony, watching the city's lights flicker on. He thought about Marie's bouquets, her speeches, her easy laughter. He wondered how many times in history a nation's trust had been traded for a smile. Behind him, Diarra entered quietly. "We have what we need." The advisor said she's sending encrypted emails every night. The last one mentioned troop locations. This isn't just charity. Mr. President Ibrahim nodded slowly. "Let her continue." He replied softly. "The truth always reveals itself." On the city's edge, Marie-Laure posed for a photo with a group of young girls, her eyes shining for the camera. Yet in that moment, a silent question lingered in the air, one that had followed her since the day she arrived. Was her kindness truly for them, or was there a story unfolding that no one yet understood? And as the moon rose over the city, the seeds of suspicion began to sprout in the hearts of the people. A question of trust, a question of truth, and the quiet certainty that every smile carries a story waiting to be told. Marie-Claire sat at her hotel desk in Ouagadougou, the glow of her laptop screen painting her face in pale blue light. The air conditioner rattled behind her, struggling against the evening heat, but Marie barely noticed. On her computer's display was a digital map of Burkina Faso, with a dozen red circles scattered across the country. Each one marked a place she had visited, a village, a checkpoint, or a small error strip. She clicked and typed, labeling each point with careful detail. The file's name: BF Security Access. Her companion, the tall, silent man with the camera, sat on the bed, scrolling through photos on his phone, saying nothing. Outside, the city was quiet. The only sounds the distant hum of mopeds and the occasional bark of a stray dog. But inside, the government security headquarters, a very different scene was unfolding. Analysts leaned over their monitors, watching as the data from Marie's laptop was mirrored in real time. The encryption she trusted was, unbeknownst to her, already broken. Every map, every message, every file she sent to Blue Window and Nightbird was now forwarded straight to President Ibrahim Traoré's secure line. Ibrahim reviewed the latest reports in his office, his brow furrowed. He recognized the pattern. It wasn't the first time an outsider had arrived with gifts in one hand and questions in the other. But this time, the game was playing out in public view. "She believes she's invisible," he told Diarra, his advisor. "She's convinced the world will only see her good deeds." Diarra nodded. "But our people are starting to notice too." The next morning, the city buzzed with excitement. A banner hung across the main boulevard announced the National Conference on African Sovereignty. Leaders, journalists, students, and diplomats gathered from across the region. The air was thick with anticipation and, for some, suspicion. Marie was to be the guest of honor, invited to give the closing speech on partnership and progress. She spent hours rehearsing in her suite, poring over each phrase. "We, the international community, are not here to control," she practiced. "We are here to serve. We are your friends." As the conference hall filled, Marie arrived in a vibrant dress sewn from local cotton, her hair pulled back, her smile radiant. Cameras flashed as she shook hands with dignitaries and posed beside President Traoré, who greeted her with his usual calm, but his eyes held none of the warmth seen in the newspapers. He watched silent and steady as Marie took her seat on stage. The opening speakers spoke of unity, resilience, and the hard-won dignity of African nations. When her turn came, Marie stood confidently at the podium, her voice carrying across the auditorium. Burkina Faso is a beacon of hope. She began, "I have walked your villages, spoken with your mothers, seen your children's dreams shining bright. We, your friends from the West, are here to empower, never to dominate." A polite wave of applause followed. But just as Marie prepared to move to her final point, President Ibrahim Traoré rose from his chair in the third row and stepped onto the stage. The moderator fell silent and stepped aside. The room's energy shifted from celebration to tension. Marie's smile remained, but her hands trembled ever so slightly. "Madame Marie," Ibrahim said gently, his voice echoing in the hall, "you speak of trust. Would you trust us enough to answer a few questions here before our people in the world?" The audience hushed. Marie nodded, trying to appear at ease. "Of course, Mr. President, I welcome every question." With a subtle signal from Ibrahim, the lights dimmed and a large screen behind the stage flickered to life. On it appeared the very map Marie had finished just hours before. BF security access with its red circles and coded notes. The crowd leaned forward, eyes wide. Marie's composure faltered. I don't know that map," she stammered. Ibrahim remained calm. "Perhaps you don't recall the email either." Another document appeared on the screen, this one showing a message from Marie's own account, addressed to Blue Window. The subject read, "Put shifts confirmed. Minimal resistance. Visual check via school visits." Gasps rippled through the audience. A young journalist stood up in the back, voice shaking. "She's been mapping our military, using the children and our villages as cover." The accusation hung in the air. Marie clutched the podium, her smile now gone, her eyes pleading. "I was only sending information for our donors, fundraising for the children." But no one answered. President Traoré turned to the crowd. "Our security services have cloned every device, every file, every message," he said. "We have traced the instructions to foreign offices. We have seen the plans not for charity, but for surveillance." Marie's lips quivered as tears welled in her eyes. "Please," she whispered, "can we speak privately?" Not like this, not in front of everyone, but the president simply stepped aside. Two security officers approached, standing beside Marie without touching her. The cameras zoomed in and the world watched as the mask fell away. In the audience, a mother rose from her seat. "You took photos of my child," she called out, her voice breaking. "You held her hand. I trusted you." For a moment, the entire room seemed to hold its breath. Marie, red-eyed and shaken, dropped the microphone to the floor. The sound echoed in the silence. Ibrahim faced the assembly, his voice steady. "We have learned to spot the difference between helping hands and hidden agendas. We will not trade our dignity for gifts, nor our children's trust for empty promises." The applause that followed was slow at first, then grew in strength, filling the hall. Marie was led out through a side door, her companion following, silent as ever. Outside, the streets of Ouagadougou buzzed with the news. Within an hour, the images and video clips were spreading online, reaching every corner of the country and beyond. At that moment, the people of Burkina Faso understood. They were not as alone as they had once feared, and their president had spoken for them all. The video of Marie Claire's unmasking at the national conference quickly swept across Burkina Faso and beyond. In living rooms and market stalls, at cafe tables, and under the shade of mango trees, people watched the scene unfold again and again. The confident foreign guest, the calm but resolute President Ibrahim Traoré, the map glowing on the big screen, and the moment when truth shattered every illusion. Within hours, international news outlets picked up the story. Headlines flashed on TV screens in New York, Paris, and Washington, reading, "Charity CEO exposed as spy in Africa. Burkina Faso president defends national sovereignty, and when a smile hides a secret." Back in Ouagadougou, Marie was being held in a quiet government facility on the edge of the city. No reporters were allowed inside. Her companion, the silent man, with the camera, had vanished, likely on the first flight out. For Marie, the applause and bouquets had been replaced with days of silence and reflection. She stared at the walls, her mind racing with regret, shame, and disbelief. No embassy official or lawyer could change the fact that her own words and actions had been laid bare before the world. Meanwhile, pressure mounted from abroad. The French and American embassies requested private meetings to resolve the matter diplomatically. Letters arrived from international organizations, some expressing concern for Marie, others urging a peaceful solution. President Traoré received phone calls from foreign leaders, each one delicately asking him to let the issue fade quietly from the headlines, but he remained firm. In Burkina Faso, he told them, "We do not trade justice for convenience or trust for comfort." Word of the scandal spread through the country's villages and towns. Mothers who had welcomed Marie into their homes felt betrayed. Children who had posed for her photos now asked their parents difficult questions. College students at the University of Ouagadougou organized an open forum on sovereignty and trust. On the walls of the auditorium, someone had painted in bold blue letters, "We will not bow to any mask." The phrase caught fire, appearing on social media, in WhatsApp groups, and even on the sides of city buses. At the forum, young people spoke of the need for vigilance not just from their leaders but from every citizen. A student named Isaka stood at the microphone. His voice was steady and measured. "Our history is full of outsiders bringing gifts with one hand and taking with the other. We must learn to see beyond smiles and promises. Our dignity is not for sale." The president invited to speak arrived without ceremony. He stood before the audience, his posture relaxed, his words simple. "Long ago they tried to conquer us with weapons. Now they try with cameras and causes. But whether they come in uniforms or with stories of aid, our resolve must not change. We protect ourselves first with our minds, then with our hearts, and always with unity." Outside the university, the city buzzed with new energy. Local radio hosts debated the events of the conference, callers expressing both anger and pride. There was disappointment, yes, but also inspiration. For many, the story of Marie Claire became less about one spy and more about a nation coming of age, learning to trust its instincts, to question what seemed too good to be true, and to stand together in the face of uncertainty. The government moved quickly. After a brief investigation, Marie was expelled from Burkina Faso and banned from entering any country in the Sahel region. The official statement was concise. For violation of trust and sovereignty, Marie Claire is no longer welcome. Our doors remain open to true friends but closed to those who come with hidden intentions. Yet even as the chapter closed on Marie's time in Africa, a new message began to circulate online. An anonymous letter appeared on several forums warning, "There will be more Marie. New faces, new names, new masks. Be ready." The word struck a chord with students and elders alike. At the university, a group of young journalists pledged to keep a watchful eye on future visitors, promising to ask the hard questions and to report the truth no matter how uncomfortable. President Traoré saw the shift in his people. He recognized the pain of betrayal but also the power of awakening. In a televised address, he spoke directly to those watching, his voice warm but determined. "Sovereignty does not belong to a single leader or to a government," he said. "It belongs to each of you. It lives in your questions, your caution, your courage. We have been deceived by force in the past, but now we must be alert to deception wrapped in a smile." In the days that followed, the phrase "we will not bow to any mask" appeared everywhere. In classrooms, on banners at soccer matches, even chalked onto the sidewalk outside the National Library. Children played a new game, pretending to be detectives, searching for hidden masks in their stories and songs. Seniors in the city's parks began telling their grandchildren tales of resilience, emphasizing the value of trust, honesty, and vigilance. Ouagadougou felt changed. The betrayal was real, but so was the lesson. The people of Burkina Faso had learned to look past appearances and to honor the quiet strength that comes from unity. They did not close their doors to the world, but they opened their eyes. And as spring approached and the city's trees burst into bloom, hope began to grow again, rooted in truth and watered by the wisdom of experience. In a quiet moment, President Ibrahim Traoré visited the university, walking past the blue letters on the wall. He paused and smiled, listening to the laughter of students as they debated politics and poetry. He understood that the future would bring both friends and challenges, but he trusted in the strength of his people to meet them all. And so the story of Marie Leclerc faded into memory, but the spirit of vigilance and dignity remained. Burkina Faso stood a little taller, its people a little wiser, its hope a little brighter. The next time a stranger arrived with promises and gifts, they would remember, trust is earned, not given. And every mask, no matter how beautiful, has its day of reckoning. Thanks for following Ibrahim Traoré's inspiring journey. Subscribe and turn on notifications to catch more amazing stories from Vibeard. In a world filled with polished diplomacy and carefully scripted aid deals, few moments break the surface and shake the truth loose. But this one did. The woman came, as many before her had, representing a powerful international organization, claiming to bring humanitarian support, financial resources, and a deep concern for Africa's development. She shook hands, smiled for the cameras, and gave eloquent speeches about unity and growth. Most people clapped. Most people believed. But not Captain Ibrahim Traoré. He stood silent, watching, listening, and most importantly, investigating. Because Traoré has always known something too many forget. Not every gift is genuine. And not every guest arrives in good faith. Behind the scenes, his intelligence team had been quietly tracking her movements. Meetings behind closed doors, calls to unnamed contacts, attempts to access restricted areas. Then came the intercepted communications, encrypted files revealing her true role as an operative, gathering intelligence for a foreign government. When the moment came, Traoré didn't strike with anger. He struck with truth. During what was supposed to be a routine diplomatic press conference, he changed the script. Cameras rolled as he calmly revealed her real identity, along with evidence gathered over weeks. Screens behind him displayed documents, maps, and messages. The room went silent. Her smile vanished. "This is not about politics," Traoré said, his voice steady. "This is about sovereignty, about the right of a nation to decide its future without deception, hiding behind a handshake." The revelation made headlines around the globe. News agencies scrambled to verify. The foreign nation in question went into damage control. But for the people of Burkina Faso, and for many across Africa, this wasn't just an exposé. It was a declaration. A declaration that the days of silent manipulation are over. Traoré's decision to confront the lie publicly, with evidence and dignity, sent a message far beyond the borders of his country. It told the world that Africa is no longer a playground for foreign agendas. It is a continent with eyes open, minds sharp, and leaders willing to risk everything to protect their people's truth. Social media exploded. Hashtags trended. Artists created visuals of Traoré unveiling masks. Youth leaders praised his courage. Even longtime skeptics were forced to admit this was leadership in its rawest, most powerful form. But the real impact came from his final words. "To every outsider who comes in peace, you are welcome. But to those who come to control, divide, or deceive, know this: Africa is awake." That sentence now echoes through streets, schools, and hearts across the continent. Because this wasn't just a spy being exposed. This was a continent refusing to be fooled again. This was dignity defending itself, and it was led by a man who saw through the lies and chose to shine a light for all to see.